So I want to talk about the school-wide culture and how we worked at kind of getting everybody on board with our blended learning program. For the teachers, it involved at the beginning, and it's evolved over time. So the way we talk about and work with the blended learning program now is very different than it was 4 years ago when we began. So we talk less about it now as a separate thing, as a separate program. It's just kind of part of what we do. Versus at the beginning when we really did talk about blended learning as kind of its own thing and how to make it work. One thing that we had a lot of collaboration at the beginning, a lot of time for teachers to just talk with each other and share what was working, how they were implementing it, what was happening in their classroom, what they were seeing as they were trying things, and we had to give a lot of time for folks to talk about that with each other and talk through both challenges and seeing things that we were liking and opportunities and talking about those together. Sharing the best practices, and these two were very instrumental in that, just trying things. And when they saw something that was working, just sharing it with everybody. And so, I made sure, as the administrator, they were the ones doing it. I was just making sure that could happen at the school. And then looking at the results, looking what was happening with the online curriculum. What did we observe our students doing on it and learning from it, as well as what the data, what the information from the programs was telling us about the kids. And so we all looked at that and talked about that together. And then software selection. We changed I know that you guys have, you gave some input as to some software you wanted to look at the beginning, but I can imagine that must have been a little difficult or challenging, thinking, okay, here's all this stuff out there, but then there's so much out there that you don't even know yet. And we changed a lot in our first couple years. We were mixing it up. We were changing the mix of the software we were using. Sometimes we would stick with something the whole year, then reevaluate. In a couple of instances, things we really didn't like, we just stopped mid-year and said, okay, we are very sure that this is not the right tool for us, and so we just stopped using it and would look for something different. Now at this point, 4 years in, this was the first year where we began the year with all the same software that we did from the year before, but this was the first time. So in going from year 3 to 4. So you should be aware of that too. Be open to really being honest about what's going on with the software you're using, and being willing to sort of just try new things. With parents, our parents this was 4 years ago. We didn't even know anybody else who was doing blended learning. It was it's still not that familiar outside of education circles. People, if you ask your friends who aren't in education, likely they don't even know what the term blended learning is. And so we really had to work with our parents on understanding, because there was some skepticism, which I'll talk about later. We had to work through that. But so some of the things we did, we talked a lot. So in our parent conferences, which are mandatory twice a year, we have parent conferences, and then they happen informally at other times of the year. And we explicitly talked about the blended learning programs that the kids were using, and the results that came out of that for the kids. So we learned the language of how you talk about that with parents. So So they heard about it, and they knew about it, and they knew how their kids were doing. We also did a lot of videos and presentations at parent meetings, parent group meetings, to help them understand the programs. We showed them the programs that the kids were going to be using, so that they knew exactly what the kids were doing online, and shared with them how teachers were using it. And again, that changes over time.